So thank you all for joining me today. I hope everyone is having a great week so far. My name is Trisha Thomas. I'm a partner here at Fourlane, and today I'm going to talk to you about simplifying your chart of accounts. So on today's topic, as I told you guys, we're going to talk about, well, what is the chart of accounts? How is it used inside of QuickBooks? I'm going to talk to you guys about some recommendations for structure. And of course, I always talk about reporting, the needs that we need, and how we can get there when we simplify our QuickBooks chart of accounts. We don't want to lose that reporting that we need. Okay, so starting off, what is the chart of accounts? So inside of QuickBooks, the chart of accounts is a comprehensive list of the company's financial accounts. Sometimes you hear people call them GL accounts, so your general ledger accounts. They are organized by the different types or categories. So you've got assets, you've got liabilities, you've got equity accounts, you've got income accounts, and you've got expenses accounts. These are used in transactions to help track and manage where a company is financially. Okay, and that kind of takes us to, well, what's the purpose of it? Okay, so it helps a business stay organized. It helps them categorize their financial data, making it easier to understand where they're at, what their financial position is, and to be able to track how they're doing in a business, income versus expenses. Okay, so when I'm talking to you guys about structure recommendations, I actually want to go ahead and go over to my QuickBooks file because I want to start showing you an example of a client's file and what their current structure looks like, and kind of talk through how I work with clients on simplifying that. So what I want to start off showing you guys is to talk about a current client's chart of accounts. Okay, so when we're looking at the chart of accounts, what we're looking at is how they're using it, how many active GL accounts they have, and then I always say kind of are we duplicating efforts, meaning that we have the same data set up as a GL account as we have in other fields such as items inside of QuickBooks, and then the detail, and I'll explain to you what I mean by the amount of detail that we're putting when we're creating these GL accounts. Okay, so the first thing I see is taking a look at here is just kind of high level looking at it. It's very, very large. So when we look at a client's chart of accounts, we like to see 200 or less. The reason for this is because we want to create a chart of accounts that when we run our financials, so our balance sheet, our profit and loss, it's on one page. We don't want to have a financial profit and loss that's 10 pages long. That's too much information. How are you going to make decisions if you have that amount of detail in one report? Okay, so the second thing I'm seeing is they do not use account numbers. Okay, if you do not use account numbers, QuickBooks puts everything in alphabetical order. And I'm going to show you an example of what their profit and loss looks like and why the importance of account numbers, because we want to be able to organize our financial reporting in the manner we want to see it, not in the default of alphabetical order. For example, looking at just your fixed assets, you've got your accumulated depreciation at the top instead of where we normally see it below our actual fixed assets. Again, because this is A, okay? So we really want to work with clients and create the accounting numbers that way that we've got it very streamlined. Sometimes I'll see where they've started out using them or it's not consistent. So sometimes it's 3 and then other accounts they'll put 4 numbers. We want to be consistent with our numbering. Okay, so just looking at this here, one of the things I said to you guys is duplicating data efforts. What I mean by this is, let's just take a look at our inventory asset account. We know that an inventory asset account is where our inventory value resides. So sometimes you'll see a raw goods, a work in progress, and a finished goods. That makes sense. We want to be able to see in each of those buckets, what is the value? What we don't want to see is individual items listed out at GL level, because we have an item list. We can see these same items here and we can run reports. So at chart of account level, we should never have inventory items listed there because that's too much detail. We are duplicating efforts when it comes to reporting. Okay. So coming on down here, we've got the same thing happening at our income. We've got sales, and then we have a division of sales called construction. But then underneath, we started listing details about our construction division. These probably are items. We do demo work, we do finishing work, we charge for plans and permits. So again, we're duplicating what is in another section of our QuickBooks file. Okay, another thing I see is look how large, look how many income accounts we have, but then look how small our cost of goods sold is. So we want to be consistent, meaning that if we have, for example, a sales construction, well, we should also have a cost for construction. And you can see we have a construction cost. So here we've got widget sales. Where is our material sales? Where is the product? So we want to be consistent in seeing income and cost of goods because we want to compare them. What is our direct cost versus our income so we can see what those margins are, what our gross profit is. Okay, so now let's come down to the expense account. So when I see the expense account, what I see is they have actually listed sales reps and they've broken down their sales reps expenses. So you can see here I have DD sales rep, different expenses that this sales rep incurs. We have DM sales rep, and you can see that we have the exact same expense accounts here. Okay. So again, what we're looking at is, do we need two advertising? Because you think as a company, probably want to track my advertising, but does it matter for it to be broken down by sales rep on a financial report? It doesn't mean that we don't want to see what our sales reps do for their expenses, but when we think about the chart of accounts, we're thinking about the financial structure. What do we want to see when we look at our financial reports? I always tell clients I never want to see anyone's name. So I've seen like employee advances, and they'll put each person's name listed on there. Well, we don't want to see that on our balance sheet. We can still look at the reporting and we can see the details, but we don't want to see it on our balance sheet. We don't want to see it on our profit and loss. Okay, last thing I'll share with you is the detail. So for example, we've got professional fees. We've got it broken down by accounting, appraisal, computer support, consulting. Do we need this level of detail? And that's what I always ask clients. Who is reviewing and who is saying, I need to see my professional fees broken into all of these buckets? If we need it, that's totally okay. But what we don't want to do is, if no one's looking at this and at the end of the day, they just care about a total of professional fees, then that's the only account we need. We don't need the detail because, again, we can still go into the vendor center and we can go look at, we can set up types. And I'm going to talk to you about types, and we can set up different types, and we can have a consulting type, an accounting type, so that we can still run reports, but it's not on our GL. Okay. So I want to show you one last thing is that profit and loss when I talk to you about the numbering. So because they aren't using numbering, our income is listed in alphabetical order. So you can see up top, we have cash discounts, we have credits, and we have maintenance, we have refunds. Our actual sales income is way down here. Now, if you think about if you're presenting to someone your profit and loss and where you stand at, we don't want to see the discounts that we gave, refunds that we gave up top. We want to see how we're doing in sales. We want all of this first. And by using a numbering system, this would allow us to move our sales and all of that detail up to the top and move these guys down to the bottom where we would expect to see them right before our total income. Okay, so that's just an example of the things that I would be going over with clients on ways that we can simplify it. Now what I'm going to do is switch over to a sample file and show you how I've actually put into place different ways that we have simplified it. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about the class list. So coming in here under list, you've got class list. Now, all of the things that I'm talking to you about are things that you would have to activate in preferences. So account numbers is not a default on for your GL accounts. The same with class list. You do have to come into your preferences and you do have to turn that on. Okay, so under accounting, here's your account numbers and here's your class list. Okay, so inside of QuickBooks, class list allows you to categorize and track transactions by different segments of your business. So you can track by departments, by locations, by product lines, by divisions. So this allows you to run a profit and loss by those different segments of your business. So you can see I did for this one, division 1, 2, and 3. There's also some you're going to see. This is my sample file where I play in, and I do have transactions also to these. So we are going to see those. Okay, so what you're used to seeing is your standard profit and loss. This shows us everything how we did as a business as a certain date. But now you've also got, by using those fields, to where we can see the profit and loss by our different divisions or revenue streams. So it still allows us to simplify and reduce that chart of accounts, but we can still see how we're doing as a business in these different segments. So in this case, I did create one with divisions. I had a client that said, hey, we would like to have divisions. And then I do a lot of construction, so you can see that I've tracked. I want to see as a company how I'm doing with new construction versus remodel. And then, of course, any overhead expenses that we incur, I want to track those too. Okay, this unclassified, what this gets created is when you create a transaction that is not linked to one of our classes. It falls in this bucket to say, hey, you did not assign one of your classes to a transaction. Okay, you can, under the class list, create sub-accounts. So for example, if you wanted to create a location, and then under the location, you wanted to also create divisions, I can create a division under my location. So you can have sub-accounts. Sometimes people want to do departments, that kind of stuff. You can do that. Okay, so that would allow you to simplify your sales, your cost of goods sold. If you are tracking it by location, you don't have to have multiple income accounts by location. You can just have a sales income and use your class list to classify those transactions. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about types. And I'm going to just do the customer types, for example. So types allows you to categorize and group customers for easier management and reporting. This offers flexibility in organizing your customer base. So I want to show you under here and under types, you can see that you can have customer types, vendor types, and job types. Okay, and there's reporting available for this. Okay, so this is why this is so powerful when you think about, I want to see how we did in sales by a certain group of customers. Or like I showed you in the professional fees, where we can create vendor types. So I could still run a report on what we did a purchase by my, different professional fees buckets, but it's not on my profit and loss as an expense. Okay, so I'm going to show you, since I'm talking about customers. So if you look at a customer, when you're setting up a customer, you've got two fields that I would recommend using, and that's what I'm going to talk about next is our sales reps. And then you can see my customer type. So I can set up as default that this customer came in as a walk-in, and when I create a sales for this customer, I want him in my walk-in types for my sales. Okay, so I've also assigned a sales rep. So when I sell a product to this customer, the default sales rep for them is DP. I'll tell you guys, I was watching the Grand Ole Opry, and it was really cool. So you can see I created my sales reps as Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, and of course myself. So I was having a little bit of fun with that. So you can see, I'm going to show you guys reporting for our customer types. So what I've done is under reporting and under sales, I've run my customer sales detail. Okay, so you can see that it's broken down by my customers and the different types of transactions. The default is all customer types, but I can come in here and I can customize my report, and I can say I want to filter by a certain customer type. So right now default is all, but I can say I want to see just how we did in sales for my commercial types. And now my report's going to change. And so again, it's going back to where that customer setup is and only showing me how we did in those types of customers for sales. Okay, very powerful reporting that a lot of people don't know that's available. Okay, so next we'll talk about sales reps, since I kind of already touched on those. That is again under list, and under our customer and vendor profile, we've got our sales reps list. Okay, so you can set up how I showed you, add a customer for a default sales rep. So whenever I create a sales transaction, that name will flow. Or when I create a customer transaction, I have the field here where I can drop in a sales rep. So again, it's all my default fields. Now what this gives me is I can see per my sales reps how they did in sales. So again, under reports and under sales, you have a report that is called sales rep summary or sales rep detail. So that report will show you, I already have it up. So that's going to show you per your sales reps how they did based on a date. So you can do it. I did it all just because this is a sample file and there's not a lot of detail. So you can see how Dolly Parton did, how Kenny Rogers did, how Trisha did. And then we also have sales with no sales reps. So this, to me, if I was a salesperson, these would be the ones I'm going to go after, because we had almost $800,000 that no one claimed. Okay, so I just call that, hey, it's anyone's. Let's go take it. But you can see, again, we don't have to have the detail on our GL for our sales reps, because we still have reporting that we can do and how they did in sales. Okay, same thing I showed you guys on the expense side, where it was broken down, where it was showing like each sales rep expense. I'm going to show you guys on our profit and loss. You can see how simple this one is. It's just our GL accounts. But let's say fuel, for example. I want to see how my sales reps did in their fuel expense. So I can drill into that account. Right now, this is showing all transactions for that account. And so I can actually come in here and I can say, I only want to see my employees, because those are how I broke my sales reps down. And now you can see that I have them sorted by each of my sales reps and what they did for the fuel expense. So still giving me the same information if that's something I needed, but I don't have to have my sales reps on my actual GL accounts, or called chart of accounts. Okay. So last thing I'm going to kind of show you with, I showed you guys the classes, the sales reps, the customer types, and kind of showed you the reportings around there. The last thing I'm going to show you guys about is kind of more inventory, just because I don't know if people know that this is available. And so it's the categories. So this is another one of those that you do have to go activate in your preferences if you want to start using, but it's got this really cool field called categories. So in the past, when you set up an inventory item, if you wanted that header sub relationship, you just created the category or the group as the header. Well, we all know people would make mistakes. They would actually create transactions at the header instead of the sub accounts. Now with categories, you can actually create categories, and these are not items, so no one can post to them. Okay, so this allows you to still be able to see your items by group and not have inventory affected in any way by that. Okay, just want to kind of make sure I went over everything. So I talked to you guys about the customer types and how we can use that reporting, classes and sales reps, and I showed you how we can see the fuel expense. Last but not least, I know we have a few more minutes, so I'm going to look at questions, but I want to show you under this categories kind of some reportings that you have available. So when we saw that they had the widgets on their chart of accounts and they were trying to track what was our sale on widgets, what was our cost on widgets, you have reporting available already. So under reports, there's two different reports that I go over with clients as part of their month-end close review. Under sales, we have a sales by item summary. And what this is showing us is what we sold. I'm going to go ahead and switch to all so we can have more information. What we sold for the time frame and quantity. What we sold, those dollars, so the total dollars of what we sold. But it also takes it another level, and it shows you what your cost was. So it's showing you what your gross margin was on your items. So this helps a business to make decisions. I have one that I'm working with right now that they are giving a lot of products away. They're doing these fun, buy one, get 10 free. Well, when I showed them this report, they were actually upside down with their gross margin on a lot of products because they kept doing these sales. So this is a good way for us to really identify and look at the data to make those decisions. Are these sales helping us? Or are we hurting our business by giving away so much product? Okay. Another report that clients use making those decisions is under jobs. It's called item profitability. What this report is showing you, a little pop up here. So it kind of shows you the same thing, but it's kind of showing you you think of your jobs and you think of your costing. And so we think of our actual cost, what our sales price was. So it kind of breaks it down so that you can see, the each cost versus total cost, what our revenue is, what the difference was, what our markup is. So this really gives you a deep dive into, are we marking up our products high enough? Is there enough margin that we can have sales? So this is, again, allowing us to still run reports inside of QuickBooks, but we don't have to have it on our GL accounts. Okay. I'm going to hop over to questions and we will finish this out. And of course, as I always tell you guys, I would love to, help on any questions you have on this, anything you need structure-wise, changes, please reach out to us. Let us be part of your team in helping you make those decisions to grow your business. So I'm going to give you guys a little, I always say, homework. What I want you to do is I want you to go and look in your QuickBooks file when we get off this call and look at your chart of accounts. Look at it and see if you're thinking it's too big. Look at it and see what the structure looks like. Is there any opportunities to simplify it? Are we reporting too much at financial level that maybe that doesn't need to be part of our financials? And if so, reach out to me. Let me help you simplify it. Let me help you identify other fields that we can use inside of QuickBooks to keep you making those decisions, but simplifying your work and your financials. So thank you guys so much today. We are right at time, so I will let you get back to your day. Again, reach out if you need more information on anything that I shared today. Thank you guys. Bye.